All I can do is speak from the heart and say what I want to do. We have a really terrific, I believe, health care plan coming out. We have to understand Obamacare has been a disaster. It's way out of control. And I'll be talking about the military. I'll be talking about the border. And remember this, on the border and throughout our country, we're getting the bad ones out, the bad people, gang members, drug lords, in some cases murderers.
Joining us now on set, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Networks, April Ryan. And in Baltimore, the ranking member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, Democratic Congressman Elijah Cummings of Maryland. Good to have you both with us this morning.
Great to see you, Elijah. You've been talking to the president about health care prices, specifically about reducing the cost of medicine. Do you expect the president to talk about that tonight?
I would hope so, Joe. There's so many issues that are affecting Americans. I've been listening to you all morning talking about how happy the conservatives are. Well, there are a lot of people who basically feel left out of the president's formulas for doing things. But I'm hoping that he will address that, because that's the #1 issue, even beyond the Obamacare, for independents, Republicans, and Democrats. So people are paying too much for medicine.
And April, looking ahead to tonight, given what we've seen so far in some of the president's more important speeches,
yes,
what can we expect? What can they change to move things forward in a more unifying way? And do you think there's an intention to do so?
The president knows, he's very well aware of the atmosphere, and he's very well aware of the optics as well in this nation. So he's got to take this time to, as he says, unify the nation, but unify when he's talking about bolstering the military and cutting domestic priorities, as well as cutting issues that could be affecting communities that are underserved. And that's a question I have for the congressman, too, particularly Congressman Cummings. You know, what do you think about the fact that this president is talking about unifying this nation, and then at the same time he's talking about adding money for the military, but yet when the Budget Act swings, it a lot of times swings on issues that affect urban America, and you are a part of urban America in Baltimore. Talk to me about that if you can.
Well, what I'm hoping for, April, is tonight. Mika, you see she's taking over your show.
We're not surprised, Elijah. We're not surprised.
But what I'm hoping for is that he will address the issues that go to the heart of Americans' problems. I mean, we spend a lot of time listening to the president talking about how great things will be, how fabulous they will be. We need to know the how. How in the world are we going to do infrastructure? Yeah, the how. How are you going to do infrastructure and at the same time increase spending on military, $54 billion? It just doesn't add up. I also want to know how he's going to deal with the Senate and the House. He seems to sometimes forget that he's got to deal with that group of people. And I'm hoping that he will say things that are unifying. I mean, I look at a lot of the things that have been said, and I got to be frank with you, April and Mika and Joe. I grew up in a household where both of my parents were Pentecostal ministers. And in my household, a lie is a lie is a lie. And I'm hoping that the president will be very honest with the American people. Yesterday, he met with the HBCU presidents, and they asked me for my advice before they went in. I said, follow the money. Yeah. I mean, it's nice to do an executive order, but when I got African-American kids who cannot get through school with a 3.5 average in the junior year because they don't have money, I want to know where the money's going. I want to, and it's immoral for them not to be able to have those opportunities. So I want to know the how and the when. You know, it's immoral to throw all of these young people out, the DACA kids and others, where they have their parents are gone to one country, they're left here to fend for themselves. That's immoral.
And you know, Mark, that's what was so striking about the speech. And again, I would encourage everybody, especially if you've been critical of the president like I have, on his tone from the very beginning. His weekly radio address this week actually spoke specifically to what Elijah Cummings is talking about right now. And the question is, does he do that tonight on a national stage?
The more he does that, the more he makes Democrats, puts Democrats in an uncomfortable position, and the more he has the capacity to perhaps expand what he's currently got,
That's
which is
the
a
question.
hardcore support.
Does he have the
Like I
capacity
said
to
before,
explain
does he want to
how?
change his brand? Does he want to go back to the brand that made him seem like such a potent force, not just within the Republican Party, but within American politics? He did win the election.
He won the election.
With the Electoral College. But, Congressman, let me ask you this. The policy matters most, but the symbolism of tonight's event matters. He's not going to be negotiating or debating policy with you. Are you willing to be seen in the hall tonight standing up and applauding a president who a lot of your constituents don't like if he says something you like tonight?
Yeah, well, I tell you, yeah, I don't mind standing up if he says something that I like, and I expect that he will say some things that I like. But at the same time, Mark, we got to make sure. You know, sometimes I listen to President Trump, and President, I know you're watching, so it's good to see you again. But let me say this. You know, sometimes I listen to him, and I feel like I'm in a hocus pocus game. I mean, we talk about one thing, then we're distracted to something else. I guess what I'm hoping for is that he will say things that will bring the country together. But more important than that, Mark, I want him to do things. Throwing people out of the country, hiring 10,000 ICE agents to throw people out of the country. To me, I mean, that may be nice to the conservatives, but when I go to a church in the Hispanic section of my district and I've got 16-year-olds crying out of fear, that's a problem.
I guess
and again,
that is a problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess Rick Tyler, this is, believe it or not, this plan has been all very deliberate. They said before they got in, we're going to do some pretty tough stuff for the first couple of months. We got to show the people who elected us we're keeping our promise, and then you watch, we're going to expand outreach out. And they said that several months ago. So this isn't somebody just trying to justify what's happened over the past couple months, which we've been critical because it's been so sloppy. But I wonder if tonight isn't the perfect time in front of Congress with a huge audience to say these are all the conservative things we've done, and then make that turn that he made on his weekly address, that he talks to people like Elijah Cummings about, talks to other members of Congress about, that may not, Republicans that may not agree with him specifically, but expands the message out tonight. It would be a perfect platform to do that, wouldn't it?
I think it would be. He would have a lot of opportunity.
And
to
Joe,
do.
Go ahead, Elijah.
Joe, that's what leadership is. And let me tell you something. That's what leadership is all about. A leadership is not just catering to your base and making them happy. It's about saying to all Americans, even the ones that I just left in the middle of the inner city a few minutes ago, saying to them and to the people in the Rust Belt and everybody, look, we've got our differences, but these are things that we can come together on, and I am not going to lie to you, period.
Yeah.
Period.
Absolutely.
All right.
But Congressman, you talked about some of the people, Donald Trump's immigration plan, and he has said over and over again that he wants to get the bad guys out, and that means it looks like he's going to leave DACA alone. That may change. But let me ask you, who gets to stay and who gets to leave? What would be a rational immigration plan?
I think that you put the emphasis on those people who have committed crimes. That's one group. But basically, when you got the DACA kids, you've got people who have been law-abiding. Again, a few years ago, remember the Senate passed a comprehensive immigration bill. I think we need to kind of go back to that. But there are some people that really do need to leave. And in our committee, the Oversight and Government Reform Committee, I've been hand in hand with Jason Chaffetz with regard to those folks. But there are a lot of people that should be here. And let me tell you something. You cannot rule a country that is in total fear. Everywhere I go, I've got people who are in fear. They're in fear of their jobs. They're in fear of policies. They're in fear of being thrown out of the country. And I'm asking the president to unite us so that we can go forward and be a leader, not a tweeter.
That would be helpful. There was, of course, a horrifying story of just an extraordinary man from Kansas who was an immigrant from India who was shot in a bar by somebody saying, "Get out of my country." I had somebody yesterday come up to me and said, "I've been here my entire life. I was born here, and yet every time I go to the airport now, I'm afraid.
There's a concern.
And by the way, he wasn't being melodramatic. It was.
Things have changed.
This is something that the president really does need to speak.
There's a concern about the fear of the other in this nation.
And by the way, you can be like me, a conservative. I believe you get to America the legal way. You don't break laws. I want to help the person in India or Pakistan or Norway or Sudan, whenever people in Sudan can come in again. I want those people to come to this country. I want them to come here legally. But I can have that attitude and still tell Americans what George W. Bush said after 9/11, that Muslim Americans are not Muslim, they're Americans.
But it's
they're
great.
us.
That's
It's
right.
great to have that attitude, but at the same time, you have to watch how you divide this country, and people are acting out against people because of the rhetoric. The rhetoric is so hot and so divisive.
Exactly.
And if we are people who believe in a higher being, we call ourselves religious, we call ourselves believing in a higher being, we have got to...
That's exactly what I'm saying. You know, George W. Bush, again, we all go back, and I think it started on Rachel Maddow right after 9/11. Some people were striking out against Muslims. What did he do? He went to a mosque, and he sat there, and he condemned the violence, and he said, these people I'm standing with are every bit as much of an American
And that
as
was
I am.
So unbelievably symbolically
That's what we need.
important.
Reinforce that
Elijah,
a few days ago.
before you go, he was amazing.
Wasn't he amazing on the Today Show a couple days ago?
You had asked the Office of Government Ethics to look into Kellyanne Conway on that breach.
Yes.
Where does that stand?
Well, they made a recommendation. They asked the president to look at it further, and that they said that she, first of all, they said it was a slam dunk, that she definitely violated the law, the law, and that he should provide some type of punishment. I don't think that's going to happen. By the way, on another thing, the second person that died in the Iraq War was from my district, who was a Muslim. His name was Waters Bay, Joe.
Wow.
And he was the second person to die in the Iraq War. And I went to his funeral. So I'm just saying, you know, we've got to bring America together. And our Muslim brothers and sisters, we've got to bring them together too, and as a part of America. We are, I mean, this is a very wonderful fabric that we have here, and the president has a chance to lead. And I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. And we need to get on that moral ground. Because this is, I mean, it's not just, it's bigger than Trump. And again, I say to Americans, all those people who are worried and crying, you better get out there and call your congressman and tell them what you want.
Yeah, you know, Mika, it was an immigrant that helped us win World War II, Albert Einstein. It's immigrants that basically have given the brain power to Silicon Valley, to fuel Silicon Valley at Intel. What an extraordinary story Intel was. Whether you talk about Google, whether you talk about so many of these other Silicon Valley companies, it has been driven by getting the best and the brightest coming to America and making us stronger. That's the message. I'd love.
It would be something.
I'd love to hear the president
incredibly
to do it.
Yeah.
So simple
and powerful to
and
see
inspiring.
him fully grasp it.
Not in conflict with the desire to enforce the law.
Yeah, you can enforce the law and celebrate immigrants at the same time.
Yep,
That's right. Congressman Elijah Cummings, thank you very much. April Ryan,
April, thank you for taking over the show.
Coming up,
There's a very, very Al Haig moment, Elijah. She said, if you look at your Constitution, April Ryan is in charge.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Coming up, another thread to this unease we've been talking about. Dozens more bomb threats against Jewish community centers. The latest reporting about what has become a disturbing trend across America. Morning Joe is back after this.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.